All right, gang. As I record this, I am 50 years old. It's April 2nd, 2025. I am newly 50. And I thought it'd be kind of cool if I did 50 lessons that I've learned over the course of the past 50 years. It's kind of weird even saying 50, but there it is. Let's get to it. Number 1, see around corners. It's a British saying, and I tell any member of my team that I'm managing that that's what I look for. Whether I'm interviewing somebody, whether I'm working with them on a daily basis, see around corners. Great, Chris, what do you mean? If your boss or your colleague requests that you work on something with them, ask them the question, why? Don't just do the thing. And I really mean that. Ask them why, understand why, accomplish what they requested of you, and then see around the corner. Take it to the next step, maybe the second next step, maybe the third next step, and the fourth next step. If you understand why you're being asked to do something within your organization, and you really understand the intent of the thing that you were asked to do, you will then have the ability to see around corners and not just complete the task, understand why you were being asked to accomplish that task, and bring more to the table. It will absolutely change the trajectory of your career. Number 2, you do not need permission. I didn't figure this out until later in my career, probably around 2005, 4 or 5. My wife was pregnant with our first child, and I was panicking. I needed money. I lived in a studio apartment in New York City. I was a director of sales. I wanted to be a vice president of sales, and I didn't know how to get access to that money. So I started a blog, and that blog got me a job as a vice president of sales at a different company. And it was a bit shocking and a bit of a revelation for me, where I was kind of like, oh, wow, I could just go and do the thing. Number 2, you don't need permission. Just do the thing. Number 3, ask yourself, why not me? Around the time that I started that blog, I started asking myself, why not me? I was getting jealous, frankly, of people in my ecosystem doing really cool things, launching businesses, getting media attention. And I started challenging myself, why not me? Number 4, be willing to start from zero. Around 2007, I became obsessed with social media. I had seen a guy speak at an event. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk. Some of you might know him. And I was gobsmacked by social and by Gary. I was like, oh my gosh, this is really incredible. And while in the audience, I was that VP of sales when I'd written the blog post. I'd gotten that job, but I was miserable at that gig, probably making too much money for my age, as a matter of fact. While in the audience, I made a decision that I wanted to be in the social media ecosystem. However, I couldn't get a gig in social media because all of the people that I was trying to get a job with were kind of like, hey, nah, you don't have social media experience. And I was like, oh, what a wicked catch-22. This is so ridiculous. I went to my wife and I said, look, just got let go. There was a round of layoffs at the company where I was a VP, and I took 3 months off. I hit the reset button, and I was willing to start from zero, to do all that I could and everything in my power to learn as much as I could about social media. So on my own dime, I flew to San Francisco. I went to one very specific conference and learned as much as I could for 3 days. Honestly, it was joyful, and I wish I could do it again, where I was just learning about social media. I was in every breakout session, and I was super excited. And then I learned about this young woman, Jamie Varon, that had was featured in an article that she had launched a URL called twittershouldhireme.com. That evening in the hotel, I purchased the URL facebookshouldhireme.com, and I began blogging from that URL, which later got covered in Fortune magazine as creative ways to look for a job. I took that article from Fortune magazine, stuck it under my arm, and got my first job in social media at a company called Buddy Media. And I was like, hey, I know how to manipulate media. I don't need the social media experience. I get it. I understand this whole thing. And that's because I was willing to start from zero. Number 5, make your own door. Traditional paths are crowded, right? Everybody's doing a resume rewrite. Everybody's hitting easy apply on LinkedIn. Everybody is trying to launch the same type of company. Everybody is trying to go up the same hierarchical process within their organization. Make your own door. Every time I did this throughout the course of my career, starting with that blog in 2004, by writing that blog, I decided that I was going to make my own door. And I encourage you to as well. If you want to get employed by a specific organization, I dare you to buy the URL xyzcompany-should-hire-me.com or xyzcompany_ title of the role that you would like.com, and then putting your resume there. Maybe you film a video. Maybe you talk about specific things that you want to interact with that organization. Perhaps, like I did for the first time in my career at Buddy Media, I created a PowerPoint deck and I told him how I had conceived of what I would do in my first 3 months at Buddy Media. Those types of things, if you can get your foot in the door, you will stand out every single time. Make your own door. Blow a hole through the wall to create your own door, but make your own door. Number 6, in your career, as in life, relationships are everything. Nurture them. They can be game-changing. In terms of my career, probably the most impactful relationship that I cultivated was with Gary Vaynerchuk. When I saw him present at that event, I was, as I mentioned, gobsmacked by it. I wrote him an email, a very long email. He had mentioned on stage that he was going to launch VaynerMedia. I got really excited. I was like, hey, man, I want to work for you. Set up a meeting with him out in Wine Library. He took the meeting. I'd been watching him film Wine Library TV for about a year, and I was obsessed. Met with Gary, and I was like, hey, dude, I want to work with you. And he's like, Chris, you have a mortgage, you live in Chappaqua, you have a wife, you have a child, you have another one on the way. I can't afford you. I'm hiring my brother AJ and his buddies from BU. He's like, go do social media and then come back. So I went and I created a vlog called dadzilla.tv. And I started vlogging about being a dad and like the products and services that I used for my daughter. And by virtue of doing that, I learned how to do social media, right? I learned how to be in front of a camera, be comfortable in front of a camera. I learned how to write blog content. I learned how to tweet about the content, interact with that ecosystem on Twitter, and I immersed myself in it. And then I went back to Gary after I got the job at Buddy Media, and I introduced Gary to Mike Lazzaro, and those two became best friends.
Yeah. Like, was it productive for me to take that meeting with Chris Desi when he randomly emailed me and said, hey, will you take this meeting? And I said, sure, which then led to a 15-minute, I'm just gonna pay forward to this kid moment, which I love to do because you never know. Well, in this time, I didn't know because it led to he being one of the early employees at Buddy Media, which was a company Mike Lazzaro had. And I will tell you that that led to free office space at for VaynerMedia when we started it in the conference room at Buddy Media. It also led to me giving a quote to Mike Lazzaro for Buddy Media where he gave me warrants to his company, which later sold for $1 billion to Salesforce. So I made 7 figures on a quote to a website. So I'd call that productive for that 15-minute meeting. But it also led to a friendship that has become one of the core friendships for Lizzie and I. And this Saturday night, I got to spend time with a very small group for his oldest son's bar mitzvah. And the speech that the son gave and the speech that Mike gave is something that is engraved in my heart for the rest of my life. I call that productive. But then there's a billion 15-minute meetings that I take where the kid's a piece of shit and nothing good happened. So when you play it in a net game, I think that people are overthinking their at-bats, right? And I think intent matters. I think people are trying to be too technically sound, they're not allowing for serendipity. And serendipity is where all the magic is, my friends. All of it.
And I'm proud of that I helped cultivate that relationship. So number 6, relationships change everything. Absolutely cultivate them throughout the course of your career, because if you can introduce good people to good people, good things will happen. Simple, right? Number 7, this is a tough one. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. A few years ago, I wrote an Inc. article with that title where I interviewed a Green Beret, and he started talking to me about that concept of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. He called it embracing the suck, is like the military way of saying it. But the reason why I mention it here is get used to being in uncomfortable situations because it's going to happen throughout the course of your life and throughout the course of your career. When I think about being comfortable, being uncomfortable, I think about mentioning Buddy Media as my dream job in social media back then. I got fired from that job a little over a year into the gig. That was devastating. Suffice to say, I was knocked on my butt. When it happened and I was terminated, I literally couldn't speak. In hindsight, I was having a panic attack or something. I don't know. And I kind of embraced it. I looked at myself. I realized that I had gotten myself into that position. That doesn't just happen on its own. It doesn't just happen willy-nilly, right? There's always a reason. And I embraced that. And I launched my own company, which led to me launching an event, the Westchester Digital Summit, and talk about relationships. Gary keynoted 3 of those events that I did. And by virtue of doing that and being like sitting in that discomfort and that panic and that fear of launching my own business, I kind of became unbreakable. And it was kind of like, what else you got? Like, I just launched this business. And the cool thing that happened eventually there was about 3 months after I got clipped from Buddy Media, a producer, Jason Hartilius, discovered me. I had written a blog post saying, if anybody calls themselves a social media guru, they're full of it because it changes so quickly. And Jason needed somebody to talk about social media on the 6 o'clock news one evening. And that afternoon, he Googled the term social media guru. He found my blog post, thought it was funny, and put me on TV that night. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Once you're there and you're not boo-hoo-hooing about, oh, the state that I'm in, you will create phenomenal things. I promise. Number 8, adapt or get left behind. I'm referring to a certain block in my career around 2008, 9, 10, when I was reinventing myself to become the social media guy. When I saw Gary speak at that event, I think it was 2008, he just brought a different energy to everything that I had been used to throughout my career. I'd never seen a guy, wearing ripped jeans and a t-shirt speak that way about business. I'd never seen a guy review wines that way, where he would talk about Bubblicious and the taste that Bubblicious had in your mouth instead of talking about the oaky aroma of whatever. I'm a wine neophyte. I didn't know what I was doing. So when I watched Wine Library, Gary spoke to me, but I decided when he was talking about social media and the power of social media, I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's a successful entrepreneur. He's run Wine Library with his family for many, many years. And I decided to adapt. And I knew that I was skating to where the puck was going. Back then, that's where everything was shifting towards social media. We were in the middle of a huge financial crisis. The economy was retracting. But I knew that there were winds of change with social media. And same thing is happening now with AI, as a matter of fact. But adapt or get left behind. Whether you are a solopreneur all the way up to enterprise level, you need to be educating yourself about this technology and AI that's happening all around us. Otherwise, you'll be gone next year. And I don't say that lightly. That's not a platitude. That is not bombast. That is not hyperbole. AI is eviscerating full-on industries. But silver lining, if you're a small business owner, I really believe small businesses are in the midst of a renaissance, and AI is absolutely going to change the trajectory of everything that you guys do when it comes to your businesses. Number 9, speed is the new advantage. When I started at Buddy Media, we were charging $5,000 a month for a custom Facebook page. For those of you that were on Facebook back then and remember that, you remember it was a thing. And for example, my first client at Buddy Media was the NHL. Mike DiLorenzo, shout out. Mike DiLorenzo was the director of communications. And after about 3 months, he became the director of social media. Talk about adapting or get left behind. The NHL custom Facebook page that we created, you were able to check somebody on Facebook and it would land on their Facebook profile page. And all of a sudden, their friends would see some random check or a puck on their profile. That was very easy for brands to spread virally on Facebook. They eventually modified that, and a little while later, that $5,000 a month Facebook page became $25 a month from PageModo. Those things happened over the course of weeks and months, and everything that's happening with AI right now is happening faster. It is like compound interest. And if you think that it's not adapting and evolving on a day-to-day basis, hour-to-hour basis, minute-to-minute basis, you're sorely mistaken. Speed is the new advantage. Move quickly, learn about technology, iterate, and you'll win. Number 10, There's value in being a bridge. When I launched my first business, Silverback Social, one of the things that I did was I created the Westchester Digital Summit. And the reason behind it was I wanted to have my startup in Westchester because my daughters were very little. And I promised myself really that I wanted to be around. I wanted to put them on the bus every morning. And I couldn't do that and go into the city every day. So I launched my business in White Plains, New York. I live in Chappaqua. It's about 10 to 15 minute drive away from Chappaqua. It was perfect. And I did a lot of networking in Westchester County. And I realized pretty quickly that people were just learning about digital marketing and social media. And I didn't want to go into sales meetings and have to explain why social media was going to be impacted. I decided to create the event and have Gary keynote the event and have my friends from Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and my former colleagues and my entire network, really. Gary Alexander, who was a Fox 5 news anchor, had been interviewing me. I had Jeff Pearlman, who was a Mayapack guy, sports writer. I had him on stage. It was a really great event. And I realized that it was more powerful for me to bring those prospects under the same roof and to be the ringmaster of sorts, right? But to be the bridge between, I guess, like the haves and the have-nots, right? Like people that didn't have access to learn about these things because I took it for granted working in tech and selling software and being in digital marketing, et cetera. But being the ringmaster and being that bridge and educating people and teaching people, there's absolute value there. So if you know something that you think adds value to others, get out there and start becoming that bridge. There's tremendous value there. Frankly, it's why I started this YouTube channel, because I see the value that I can add to small to mid-sized businesses just by educating them on how to leverage the power of technology, AI specifically. Number 10, be a bridge. Number 11, this is an important one. Never outshine the master. I'm a huge Robert Greene fan, and in the 48 Laws of Power, the first law is don't outshine the master. And I messed up this one a million times in my career. I am obviously outgoing, gregarious. I am very, very ambitious, and that has bitten me in the backside a few different times throughout the course of my career. And hopefully you can learn from that, right? What I mean by never outshine the master is if you report, even if it's your peers, even if it's somebody that's just within your ecosystem, within your organization, if it's your business partner, never outshine the master. Allow for whomever it is in the hierarchical structure of your organization to be that person. Allow for them to be the master, if you will. It's kind of a weird terminology, but I think you understand what I'm saying. And especially if you're ridiculously ambitious like I was and I am and I remain, because when you want to accomplish great things and you want to get notoriety within your organization, this can go horribly wrong. You can step up to volunteer to do too many things and you could end up outshining the master. It's an important one, gang. It'll get you fired. It's gotten me fired. Number 11, never outshine the master. Number 12, eye contact is critical. Take off your sunglasses. When I was a junior in college, I studied abroad for a year in Leuven, Belgium. Throughout the course of that year, in the spring semester, we went to Italy as a group. I went to Loyola University in Maryland as my undergraduate degree. This was a full year abroad at KU Leuven, Katholieke Universiteit in Leuven, Belgium. University. So of course, the springtime came, we were going to the Vatican for Easter. On our way there, we stopped in Florence. While in Florence, Italy, a random thing happened. I'm walking around and I notice a friend of mine from Belgium. Bizarre, right? Walk over to him, shake his hand, super excited to see him. It's a beautiful day. My parents were visiting. Hadn't seen them in a while because I was overseas. And I introduced them to my friend, introduced them to my other colleagues and my colleagues' classmates, I suppose. Yeah, my classmates. And after that interaction, I don't recall whether it was immediately after or when I went back to Belgium, the gentleman that I had run into pulled me aside and said, Chris, when you're introducing yourself to people and you're outside and it's sunny and you have sunglasses on, you should remove the sunglasses. Now, I should also mention that that gentleman turned out to be a Belgian prince. I had no idea that he was. And I thought it was really great advice. And I know it's not something that I, did wrong, but it was really refreshing that he felt comfortable enough to share that with me, because in that interaction, when I was introducing people, he was introducing me to his friends and I had sunglasses on. Super simple. Number 12, take off your sunglasses and make eye contact. Number 13, do your job and do your job well. In spring of 1997, I was graduating from Loyola University in Baltimore, Maryland. Our keynote speaker was Tim Russert. At the time, he was the host of the show Meet the Press, very popular journalist. And he delivered a phenomenal keynote speech, and this stuck in my head. And he talked about doing your job and doing it well and being responsible for like your everyday due diligence for the job. And he told a story about a police officer in Oklahoma City who saw a car drive by him with a broken taillight. And that officer had the choice to like let it slide or pull that car over and issue a ticket. Pulled the car over, ran the plates, found something out. The person that he had pulled over was actually the Oklahoma City bomber. And he became the police officer to capture that person. All because he just executed his job. He did his job well. I think it's pretty powerful and a phenomenal message, especially in this day and age. Do your job well, and some pretty spectacular things will happen. Rest in peace, Tim Russert. You're the best, man. Number 14, protect the 3 pillars. Number 14, protect the 3 pillars. Your mind, your body, your soul. Everything else will fall into place. Exercise, spirituality, and keep learning by reading. Take care of those 3 pillars, and good things will happen. Number 15, celebrate others on your big day. And this was top of mind for me for my 50th birthday because I took that lesson to heart. Now, I learned that lesson from my mother. My mom, when I was growing up, would tell my brother and I on Mother's Day how much she loved being our mother. And it was always like a head fake. Like we're the ones supposed to write a card and get mom flowers and make a fuss over mom. But she taught me that on days like that, to appreciate those people in your life that made you that, right? So on Mother's Day, give thanks for your children. I just thought it was a very interesting paradigm shift, and it just stimulates such a deeper, beautiful connection between the people in your life and yourself. If you shine a light on them on your day. On my 50th birthday evening, I wrote letters to my family, my wife and my 2 girls, and I told them how lucky I was to have them in my life. And man, if it wasn't the most beautiful dinner ever, on my birthday dinner, I paused, made everybody stop, and handed them these letters. And what joy. Gosh, I love that one. Thanks, Mom. Number 16. The big bad thing in your life right now is just that. It is the big bad thing in your life. And I don't mean to diminish that big bad thing. I just need you to understand that there are myriad bigger, worse things in life happening to people right now that you know. So the big bad thing in your life is just that. It is the biggest, baddest thing that you're dealing with. And it is not insurmountable, because I could probably guess that it's not the worst thing imaginable. It's not insurmountable, and it's not the worst thing imaginable. So the biggest, baddest thing in your life right now is just that. And once you go through that big bad thing and you solve that big bad thing, you'll be stronger for it and ready and have the tools to conquer the next big bad thing in your life. But give yourself that perspective. The big bad thing in your life is just that. It's the biggest and baddest thing in your life, you individually, not the biggest, baddest thing ever. Number 17. This is a tough one. Success lives on the other side of cringe. So what do I mean by that? I mean, I'll go back to Gary Vaynerchuk. When I first learned to Gary, he was doing Wine Library TV, doing it exceptionally well, super comfortable in front of a camera, largely just because he knew what he was talking about, right? He was talking about wine and he could just rattle it off because he worked the floor for his entire childhood. I was so impressed by that. I went home after meeting with him and he told me to do what I was passionate about and learn about social media. He's like, I can't give you the job. You got a mortgage and a kid and hiring my brother AJ. Go do social media, then come back to me. So I started Dadzilla TV because he asked me, he's like, what are you passionate about? I'm like, oh, being a dad. I'm a new dad. Cool. Once I started doing that, the first thing that I wanted to do was get in front of a camera and, be just like my hero, Gary. And man, was it difficult. I had a camcorder. I had one of those hook lights that you use in your garage to light the engine. And it was like beaming in my face. I'm probably not much better at lighting now, but still, it was so cringy. I look at the video and maybe I'll add some of the video over here once I edit this video, but I was sweating and it was so cringy. But that catapulted some of the most exciting and unexpected things in my career, because putting myself on camera doing Dadzilla TV, plus the VP job before that, I put myself on camera then because the company was based in Germany. And I hired 2 students from NYU, film students, to come into my office and film me do my quarterly sales updates. And that was so embarrassing, right? But the reason why I did it is because I was in the US, I was a satellite office, everybody was in Europe, and I knew that when I would send a spreadsheet sales update, nobody was going to read it. So I was like, how do I get people's attention? Let me do a video. I'll stand on the balcony of my office in Bryant Park, overlooking Bryant Park. Absolutely beautiful. Maybe I'll link up to that video as well. But those were so cringe inducing. I couldn't do it. I had like my lines taped on the camera. But once I got through the cringe, those videos are what Jason Hartilius, the television producer, saw after he found me, right? So he Googled social media guru. He saw my blog post saying, if you call yourself a social media guru, you're full of it. He laughed at that. He copied my name, pasted my name into Google and searched, and he found those videos. And he's like, okay, he's telegenic, meaning I look okay on camera. Seems relatively smart. I know I'm a total meathead, but I can string a sentence together. Let me put him on TV tonight. Success lies on the other side of cringe. If it scares you, go through it, not around it. Number 18, graciously walk through a no. Kind of aligned with success being on the other side of cringe, but very specifically a no. When I first met with Gary and he told me, Chris, I can't hire you, I took the no very seriously. But with respect, I was telling myself, and Gary for that matter, I'm like, I could do this. So I very respectfully walked through the no that Gary had put in front of me. I spent 3 months learning about social media. I did some creative things with Facebook-should-hire-me.com. I got a job in social media at Buddy Media. Introduced Gary to Mike Lazaro, where he incubated VaynerMedia in those offices. And man, that only happened, I think it was less than a year. Graciously move through the no that's currently in front of you. Get creative on how you're going to move through that no. Have reverence for the no. It's not a don't take no for an answer. It's a when you hear it, absorb it, figure out why no was given to you, and then go through it. Number 19, somebody is always smarter than you. Always. And conduct yourself as such, especially if you're a young employee in an organization. I don't care what school you went to. I don't care what degrees you have. I don't studied. I don't care how smart you think you are. I'm not talking about book smarts. I'm talking about experience. Book smarts sometimes, but experience mostly. Somebody is always smarter than you. Assume that you're the dumbest person in the room and everything will be okay. Kind of aligns with don't outshine the master. But when you're young and you're starting out in your career, it behooves you to pay attention to those around you. They've been around the block. I learned this from my Uncle Bill. Many years ago, I was in Austin, Texas with him on a golf course. And Bill LaRosa is one of my heroes, not just because he's my godfather and my uncle, flesh and blood, right? But also because he's a phenomenal business person. So on that golf course, I was asking him lots of questions about my career and, the ups and downs that he dealt with as an entrepreneur, as an engineer at GE and IBM and all these great companies. And he was always hugely successful. And he was just an inspiration to be around. And I was like, wow, you're so smart. And he paused for a second. He's like, Christopher, I'm not that smart. I've just been around. And that answer did a couple things to me. It kind of like twisted my brain around. I thought it was so charming in its lack of ego and so profound in its simplicity. And he was telling the truth, right? The questions that I was asking him had to do with his experience, the things that he had seen. They were not the things that he learned in college. Yes, he's very smart, but it was his experience, the interactions that he had, where he knew the puck was going and where to skate to, right? Number 20, be yourself and do it loudly. That's really your only edge in life because nobody can compete with you. Nobody can try to be you. If you're suppressing you, it will come out in other ways. If you are overly suppressed, it'll hurt you. And then you won't be protecting your three pillars, your mind, your body, and your soul. Be yourself loudly. You'll thank me for it. Number 21, fall madly and deeply in love with learning. I mentioned reading books earlier, but I don't mean just reading books. I mean immersing yourself in whatever it is that you're doing in your career. You could be opening a laundromat. You could be selling cars. You could be teaching. You could be a clown in the circus. You could be an engineer. You could be a carpenter. You could be an electrician. You could work on HVAC systems. I don't care. But fall in love with learning about your craft. It will be your superpower. I cannot stop reading, listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts about, I never say business, I always say nonfiction. I really enjoy nonfiction. Anybody that has a story to tell, anybody that has experience that I've not had, that I know I need to be exposed to so that I can modify my career and my behavior, that will change the trajectory of your career. Because instead of just doing the same job every year over and over, that 1 year's worth of work repeating for 20 years, you'll end up doing 20 years worth of work in 1 year. You'll end up being able to understand, if not having to do the job in a different department, but understanding why they're doing what they're doing and putting yourself in their shoes and having empathy for their perspective. That's what learning does for you. And that's really what ignorance does. Think about it. In our society, if you're ignorant, you can't put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You can't see their different perspective. You can't have empathy. You can't understand why they're upset by a thing or why they're excited about a thing. Number 22. This is a cool one. Teach as you learn. Man, this happened by accident for me. When I started my blog, I just started writing about my industry and I started talking about different things that were happening in my industry and that I thought were really impactful and interesting to me. And I ended up becoming the guy at the tip of the spear and seeking out new and different things so that I could learn about them, be the bridge, and share about them. See how this is all coming together? But if you can't teach it as you're learning it, you don't really understand it. So the ability to go out and learn about something and maybe film a video or write a blog post or talk to your colleagues or make a presentation in your office or tell a family friend or your child or your parent about said thing, you won't learn it as deeply and as profoundly as if you teach it after you learn it, because you can then get in the shoes of the person that you're talking to, see where they have additional questions, maybe go back to the drawing board, learn a little bit more. It will round out your learning experience. Teach as you learn. Don't have to be an expert. You could just blog about it. You could create a TikTok video about it. You could tweet about it. You could tell a friend about it. But teaching as you learn will be an absolute game changer. And I think it's when I first got my ugly mug put on television in like 2010 that really became profound for me, because the producers would come to me with different topics and different ideas, and I'd have to learn pretty quickly about them and then be the expert and be able to communicate that and be able to create sound bites so that it was easily digestible little kibble so people could learn from what I was sharing with them. It's a big one. 22. Number 23. If you can think it, you can build it. I'm not getting all woo-woo, the secret, ask, believe, and receive, but I'm going to get woo-woo and talk about the secret and ask, believe, and receive. If you can think it, if you can conceptualize the thing, you can build it. I have no question about that. If you want to launch an agency, you can do it. You could find the tools at your fingertips. If you want to go to law school, you can do it. You can study for the LSATs. You can go forward with it. If you want to become a plumber, you can absolutely do it. Anything that you can think of, especially in our world today, information is everywhere, and you can make those things happen. Super exciting. We live in a very cool time, guys. If you can think it, you can build it. Go out and build it, and then tell me about what you built. Number 24. But don't build the thing until you validated the thing. What do I mean by that? Ask your ecosystem, your colleagues, if they're interested in the thing that you're planning on building. And if they are, give you their email address. This will be a game changer for any new entrepreneur. If you're thinking about building a product, if you're thinking about launching a company, if you're thinking about building a small business, a big business, a medium business, whatever it might be, first, ask if people will buy the thing. And they'll tell you, but do it before you build the darn thing. I've seen this happen way too many times where people build a product that they think is cool and nobody buys it because you didn't ask. My father told me a million years ago when I was at NYU working on my master's degree in direct marketing, Christopher, what's the first thing you do when you start working with a client? Oh my gosh, intimidating question, scary question. Research. And that's where you start. And today, you can just ask your friends and family, post it on Facebook, tweet about it. Would you buy this product? Do you think that that's interesting? If you do, give me your email. I'll let you know when the product is live. Elon Musk does it all the time. Who wants to give a down payment for the opportunity to spend $150,000 on a truck that looks completely ridiculous? That's how he does it, guys. He gauges interest, takes that interest, goes to the banks, raises money, builds the thing. 25. But when you validate, don't ask your friends. Friends are the worst product testers because they're going to be nice. They're going to be kind. Oh, that sounds so great. You're going to build that business. Wonderful. I'd love to do it. Go outside of that ecosystem. Don't ask for your friends' opinions because they don't want to hurt your feelings. You want your feelings to be hurt when you ask opinions about your product. You want people to give you feedback that stings. Your friends are terrible product testers, I promise you. Number 26, and pay attention. Always have a contract. Always. But Chris, it's my brother. Contract. But Chris, it's my mom. Contract. It's a good friend of a contract. Trust me. Always have a contract. Duly signed contract. 27. That big dream you have will die unless you understand the micro tasks that you need to accomplish before you get to that big dream. If you can't break down the steps to get to where you want to go painfully tactical, it'll never happen. And I think I learned this in the book Atomic Habits. But yeah, in that book, he talks about how to break down steps in accomplishing things. And it gets so ridiculously airtight, like airtight's not the word. It gets so granular, right? So for example, instead of saying, hey, Chris, you need to get a cup of coffee tomorrow morning, it's wake up, put your shoes on, your coffee, walk into the place, grab the coffee, walk out. Like, you get the idea, right? Like, if you can't articulate and map out those little baby steps to the big thing will never happen. The little baby steps, death by 1,000 cuts. They will kill you. And the scaffolding that you build to try to get to the big thing, unless you've built those foundational elements behind you, it ain't going to work. Number 28, marketing is not that hard. However, if you don't have a degree in marketing, heed this advice. You better know your audience better than they know themselves. Remember I mentioned my father talking about research as the first step in marketing? I see it so many times, and it makes me lose my mind. I will ask a client, who is your customer? And they'll say, well, we think it's about, and I go, Well, no, it's a 37-year, You need to know, based on the data, who is your client? Who is your target? And I mean details about that target. Create an avatar, name the avatar, give the avatar a backstory, like acting, right? So it's going to be Sue. Sue is 37. Sue aspires to own XYZ type of bike. Sue subscribes to XYZ magazine. Sue buys her biking shoes, clips, helmet from these different stores. Sue only bikes on Saturday mornings with a group that meets at XYZ. You gotta get granular. And once you know Sue, top to bottom, inside and out, you, your team, everybody within your organization can start to put meat on the bone of that demographic. And then you start to market. Because if you don't have that person that you created in your mind or from data, from Google Analytics, unless you have that in your mind and you know who that customer is, you're just going to be throwing money away. But once you figure it out and you meet Sue's needs and you speak with Sue in the manner with which she wants to be spoken to, and you give Sue absolute delight and surprise her because you know what she likes and what her interests are, game over. You've won. See, marketing is not that hard. Just know who you're marketing. Number 29, start with research. Yes, Adrian. Assumptions are expensive. Always research. Whether you're starting a business, whether you're buying a car, whether you're buying a home, whether you're buying furniture, wherever you're spending money, whoever you're interacting with, who you're going to be friends with, start with research. Game changer. Think about it first, then do it. Number 30, email works. Texting is better, but email works. Still does. It's April 2025. Email works. No matter what you're doing, if you're not even sure about the business that you're going to start and you're asking the ecosystem about the product that you want to build, get their email address. If you don't get their email address, they disappear into the ether. Emails are still important. Number 31, ditch the slides. In 2003 or 4, I really wanted to be a public speaker. Desperately. Went to my boss at the time, Brett Lofgren. Shout out, Brett. Great guy. And I was like, hey, I want to speak at these conferences. He's like, cool, go ahead. Like, nothing's stopping you. Again, right? Like, don't ask for permission. I wanted to be respectful to Brett. Didn't want to outshine the master. See how this all comes together, gang? Went to Brett, hey man, can I start speaking? Yeah, cool. My first speaking gig, I went out to Long Island from the city to speak at a local chamber of commerce through my friend Andy Calamano. Wow, shout out to Andy. We went to grad school a million years ago together. And he got me my first internship at Grupo Levy and Capel. Great guy. I spoke to that group about working at an ad network and what an ad network was and affiliate marketing and how to interact with publishers. And I had slides and I found myself like looking at the slides and not looking at the audience. And I know that AI can create slides for you now, but I implore you, if you have to present slides, ditch them. Or at least ditch the copy on the slide. Just throw a picture up there and then talk and tell a story. Nothing is more powerful than just having one image on a slide and you explaining it. Because what will happen is people will actually pay attention to you and they will actually be listening to you. They won't be reading the junk on the slide. Number 32, you knew this was coming. Learn how to tell a darn good story. It's your most powerful tool, like the most powerful tool. The absolute most powerful tool. Learn how to tell a story. This only comes from practice, gang. If you want to be a presenter, if you want to do public speaking, learn how to tell a story. Stories are what draw people in. Emotions are how people make decisions. We think as human beings, we make decisions based on hard facts and data. No, you don't. People make emotional decisions. They size you up. They hear the way you're saying the words. They feel your body language and your facial expressions and all like, do they really know about what they're talking about? Blah, blah, blah. Tell a story and you'll win. I promise. Number 33, give them what they want and they'll invite you back. Another Bill LaRosa lesson. About 10 years ago, I was doing very well on the public speaking circuit, getting paid to keynote events. I was on television 3, maybe 4 times a week, national television. I had written my first book. My agency was doing really well. My event was doing really well. And my uncle remains a Vistage chair in Austin, Texas. Vistage is an executive networking group, C-suite, where CEOs can sit in the same room. The Vistage chair is an executive that has lots of experience. Remember I told you about how Bill had all that experience and that knowledge? And he put me in touch with the right people. I had to audition in New York City in front of other CEOs, and it was a couple of different days of me presenting. Got the gig. Now I'm a Vistage speaker. One of my first speaking events, fly down to Austin and present to my uncle's Vistage group. So we're talking, and I say, Uncle Bill, Godfather, what do I present? I'm going to talk about social media. I'm going to talk about my agency. I'd like to audit each of the executives' companies that are in the room beforehand so that when I present, He said, well, Christopher, what's your goal? And I was like, oh, I don't know, get business from while I'm there. He's like, no, your goal is to get invited back. So give them what they want and you'll get invited back. And I should mention that that's where my idea collaborating with him came about the audit, because you're only going to get invited back if you give people what they want. And what they wanted was selfishly for me to audit their business so they could get something that they could put into action immediately. Profound lesson. Number 34. This is a huge one. At conferences, stop selling. At conferences, stop selling. Stop selling at conferences. Don't sell at a conference. Do not sell at a conference. Stop selling at conferences. Stop selling at conferences. Here's how you work a conference. You know where you're going. Find the speakers. Reach out to the speakers. It's easy. You'll find them on LinkedIn. You'll find their Twitter accounts, whatever way that you could find them. Reach out to them. Don't sell to them. Tell them that you're going to be at the conference and you're really looking forward to hearing them speak. Only if you are actually really looking forward to hearing them speak. And if you are going to really hear them speak. Get to the conference, sit in the room, hear them speak. Then you go up to them and you say, hey, I'm Chris. Remember me? I sent you a tweet or a text or a direct message or whatever means of communication that you reached out to that speaker. Interact with that speaker, become friends with that speaker. Tell them how great it was, how much you learned from them, how inspired you are by what they just did on stage. Again, don't sell. Do not sell. Take a picture with them if you can. Selfie, it'll be fun. Hey, that was great. Learned so much. That was super. Mind if I take a selfie? Click. Go home. When you get home, keep track of that person. Maybe you do a recap blog post. Maybe you do a recap video. Maybe you do a recap research paper. Maybe you, I don't know how you're going to do it. Maybe you just post on LinkedIn. It was great being at XYZ event. You're going to tag the person. That's your follow-up. That's your warm introduction. And now you can start talking about your business, but not selling. That's how you do conferences. That's how you kill conferences. That's how you get business at conferences. Make friends, but do it right. Reach out to them first. Interact with them on the floor. Follow up with something cool that they'd be interested in. And that's not being sold to. That's just saying, hey, I learned these 3 things from Bob while he was on stage. Thanks, Bob. Here's a selfie. Then you can talk about your business. Please heed that advice. Please, please don't sell at conferences. Number 35, you will, throughout the course of your career, have really terrible bosses. They're tough to deal with. They're angry. They're incompetent. They are sarcastic. They're condescending. They're not as smart as you. They don't work as fast as you. They don't understand the technology that you use. They don't, whatever. Stop complaining about them. Take a breath and figure out what they can teach you. It's in there somewhere. Whether that be the things that they're good at, the things that they're like, not the bad stuff, right? So you got to like peel it away, or focus on the bad things and don't do them when you become a boss. There's always something that a bad boss can teach you. Always. Bad bosses are great teachers. Number 36. This is an important one. If you manage people, you only praise publicly, and you only give constructive feedback privately. Notice I didn't say you don't criticize, you don't yell at, you don't reprimand. Constructive feedback privately. Praise publicly, constructive privately. No exceptions. There is no situation where you as a boss should be in a conference room in front of that person's colleagues critiquing their work. It is demoralizing, it is counterproductive, and frankly, it's dangerous because you're going to have a good employee get up and walk out the front door if you do that. Yes, you need to add constructive criticism and feedback, but you do that in one-on-ones. Privately. Praise them publicly when they do the good stuff. Give them the hard feedback privately. That's a big one. Number 37. If you are an entrepreneur with no leverage, no income, no product, no team, no meetings, no financing, no money in the bank, no money coming in, nothing. The only thing that you as an entrepreneur have as leverage time. That's it. Oren Klaff taught me that. The book Pitch Anything was intriguing to me. I read the book, was fascinated. I reached out to Oren and I interviewed him. And I wrote about him in my Inc. column a million years ago when I had the Inc. column. If you search my name on Inc., you'll find the article. I interviewed Oren, and in Pitch Anything, and you should get the book, try to link it up somewhere, he talks about the power of time and how if you have no negotiating power and you're feeling helpless, that if you put constraints on your time for meetings, it will create a power shift. For example, if you're trying to sell to somebody, let's go through the example of the conference, right? You saw the person speak, you're impressed with that person, you reached out to them beforehand, you saw them, you got the selfie, you follow up, you're now ready to take the meeting. Reach out to their assistant. Can we set the meeting up? Yes. The assistant says, when are you available? If you respond and you say, the month of May, wide open, I'm an entrepreneur, you know how it is. No. You say, next Tuesday between 2 and 3, Wednesday between 9:30 and 10, and maybe one more option. It's so small, yet so profound. Claim your power, claim your time, and you'll feel the shift in your interactions. Don't be an idiot about it. Don't be a jerk about it. But if you're an entrepreneur, the only leverage you have is your time. So use it. Thank you, Oren Klaff. Number 38, as a new employee with no power, the only power you have is your energy. And I know energy is a weird word to talk about when talking about business and work, but it's enthusiasm. If you do everything with enthusiasm, if you requested to do a project that you're terrified of, but you have the mindset of, wow, I've never done this before. Cool. I'm going to learn so much on this project. If that comes out of your mouth in front of a boss, in front of colleagues, in front of anyone within your office, they're going to be like, man, I love the way she is wired. You hear the way she approaches life? Oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing ever. If you bring energy and enthusiasm to everything that you encounter as a new employee, as a new entrepreneur, as a new anything, and you feel like you have no power because you're new, bring enthusiasm. Because the people that are tasked with taking you along on the journey and helping you will get excited by your excitement. And you'll remind them why they're in the room and why they are a part of the mission of the company that you're at and why they love the job they love. And you might remind them about the love they used to have for the job. And boy, what a joyful place that would be. I've seen it when I ran my agency and I would hire kids that had zero energy and didn't approach things with enthusiasm. I wanted to kill them because I was so enthusiastic about everything. Things I was learning, things I knew, people that I was meeting. Oh, I am not lacking for enthusiasm. But if you're new and you have no power, if you approach everything with energy and enthusiasm, you're going to be all right, kid. Number 39, contrary to what your spouse or parent or teacher may say to you, anger is rocket fuel. Sometimes things blew up in my face, but I was always really good at harnessing that anger and having that that chip on my shoulder. And anytime that would happen to me, and I realized that if I was able to harness that anger, whether it be real or conjured in my brain and not cause confrontation, it became absolute rocket fuel for my career. Clipped from Buddy Media, so angry I couldn't speak. Launched Silverback Social, launched the Westchester Digital Summit, wrote my first book, became a regular on television, got paid to keynote events within the first 2 years after getting clipped from Buddy Media. If you approach it correctly, anger can be rocket fuel. So don't shy away from it. Maybe lean into it. Don't hurt anybody. Don't be mean. Just, hear. Then you do the thing. Number 40. You can't light a fire in other people. And this is a lesson I learned by being a father. I have 2 beautiful teenage daughters. Talia, who, let's see, it's April 2nd. She is going to be 17 on the 14th of this month. 17-year-old to be and a 14-year-old. Mind blown. These young ladies have taught me that I can't light the fire inside of them. I can only put them in situations where that flame can grow. And what I mean by that is Talia is musical. She's in theater. She is in an a cappella group. That is her thing. Olivia is very athletic. She's a phenomenal softball player, phenomenal basketball player. Each of them had exposure to the same exact things. They both played soccer and lacrosse. They were both in theater. They both took piano lessons. They both did all of these different things. And yet they found their things. They're particularly top of mind for me because last weekend was a banner weekend for the Desi girls. Talia had her Q-Note a cappella group concert and she had her solo and it was beautiful. And Olivia had her first softball game and she hit the cycle. Girl had a home run, a triple, a double, a single. Banner weekend for those girls. And it had me thinking, they just have it in them. And it's your job to fan the fire. So you can't light the fire and make them do the things you want them to do. Trust me. Tried to get Talia to continue with soccer. I said, give Daddy one more season. She gave me the one season. That was it with soccer. Trust me. I did it with Olivia. Please play lacrosse for one more season. She was so good. She was incredible. She didn't like it. That was it. Same thing with employees, colleagues. It's not your job to light the fire. It's your job to cultivate the fire and create an environment where those individuals around you can grow that flame. Very difficult one as managers, especially if you're ambitious and you're competitive. You see somebody you're managing that's ambitious and competitive. This goes back, don't outshine the master. Don't outshine the master. But if you have that ecosystem and you're trying to point somebody in a direction, sometimes you can't. Sometimes if they're a force of nature just like you just need to fan the flames. And you just need to watch them blossom. And you just need to watch them crush life. Makes me think of a former employee of mine, Kat Jordan. Absolute killer. This young lady came in to Diamond Standard where I was chief revenue officer 3.5 years ago. We hired her as a BDR, a business development representative. And 2 years later, she was she SVP? VP of customer relations. Unreal. 2.5 years because I got out of her way. I put her in situations where she could take the flame that was already lit and it could turn into a forest fire. You could do that. Man, it's fun watching people just blossom around you. Number 41. This is a tough one, and it might take some meditation. It might be, I don't know. Silence the voice that says don't, and you can't. For me, I realized much later in life, again, this is about being 50 and learning these lessons. The voice, if he's watching this, I apologize, was my brother Mark. I love my brother dearly. He has been my protector, my confidant, my support, my mentor, my motivator, my pace setter. Like he just crushed school, National Honor Society, captain of the football team, Villanova, law school, St. John's, attorney, partner in his law firm, great father, great husband, great guy, great athlete, good at everything that he does, just a great human being. But when I was little, my brother, I remember I got beat up every single day. It's probably why I was good at wrestling and rugby and football. Quick hands, right? Keep it moving. My brother became that voice in my head. But I remember benching 135 pounds for the first time, and I was super excited. I felt really strong. I was like, Mark, I benched 135 pounds. Big deal, right? A little scrawny little 115 pound, 5'9", 115 freshman. And he looked at me and he was like, talk to me when you hit 225. I was like, oh, that type of thing. But that became the negative voice in my head. And I would use that voice oddly as like a sounding board. Like I'd think of an idea and I'd hear my brother be like, that's a dumb idea. And I would think of, I'm going to go in that direction. Why would you go in that direction? Had nothing to do with my brother today. It was my brother when I was, 13. But I stopped asking that voice its opinion. I know it sounds so weird, but I also know you know exactly what I'm talking about because we've all got that voice in our heads. Silence the voice that says don't and listen to yourself. Listen to your own feedback. And the reason why I'm saying listen to yourself is because I don't want the unequivocal, unconditional, supportive voice saying that because you're going to make some bad decisions if you do. But I want you to ask yourself. I want you to have confidence in your experience, have confidence in your ability. Don't ask the negative voice. Ask yourself. It works. Promise. I have to proactively think. Once I think, oh, that's a great idea. And for whatever reason, I just hear my brother, dumb. Shut it down. Ask yourself. It'll work. Promise. Number 42. Whoa, this is a tough one. If the feedback you're getting hurts, you probably needed to hear it. I cannot tell you how many times I walked out of annual reviews or one-on-ones as a sales executive and I was blaming everybody on the outside. That guy's a jerk. That girl didn't help me in that project. If it stings, they're right, and you needed to hear it. Tough one to swallow. Don't leave the job. Don't say that the manager is a jerk. Don't say that the colleague is a jerk, the client is a jerk, whatever. There's always going to be a little nugget of truth in uncomfortable feedback. And it's an uncomfortable thing to think about, but it's true. Number 43, kill your idols. When you meet them, you'll realize they're just human beings. That's as far as I'll go into that one. But kill them. You should be your own idol. Sounds weird again, but it's true. Kill your idols. They're all human. They've all made mistakes. And you're only going to set yourself up to be let down. Number 44, expect adversity. Kind of goes back to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, but if you are doing anything worthwhile in this life, personal, private, public, it's going to be hard. That's why I said get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you can live in that pocket and be really comfortable staring down the mouth of the dragon and you've expected it, what do you think is going to happen? You'll be prepared for it. It might not mean tactically prepared to pivot and do these different things, but you will have tools in your tool chest to handle it. Maybe you will have had run through the conversation, the tough conversation in your head beforehand. Maybe you will have prepared some money off to the side to sustain adversity. Maybe you will have had started to go on interviews at another place when you know things are going sideways at the current place. Expect adversity and expect the worst case scenario that you could possibly fathom, and you'll be fine. Don't want you to be negative. Don't want you to talk about it. Just want you to internalize that. Expect it's going to be hard. And if it's not, you'll be pleasantly surprised. But expect it. Because if you don't, and you go in with rose-colored glasses, it's going to sting. And you're going to fail. Number 45, forget perfection. This is another ADHD thing where I obsess over things and I want it to be perfect. Aim for good enough. Aim for speed. You can always come back and make it better. This is especially for entrepreneurs, not necessarily for employees. Don't half-ass the work that you've been given. But don't worry about perfect if you're an entrepreneur. If you can create an infrastructure that's okay and you can continue to move forward, move forward. This has never been more relevant or important than now. AI is moving so quickly. The products and services that we're being exposed to are moving. They're moving so fast, we can't keep up with them. I'm supposed to be paying attention to all these different platforms because this is what I do and I can't. There's too much out there. And it's evolving so fast, it's like compound interest. Like it keeps getting smarter and faster. Blah, 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 blah. So forget perfect and continue to move forward and iterate. If you're worried about making it perfect, what's going to happen is you're going to get left behind. You're going to get swallowed by the gulf between people that don't understand and leverage technology and the people that do understand and leverage technology, because that gap is just getting wider and wider and wider and wider. Forget perfect, aim for good enough, and make it better. 46, when one door closes, build your own house. This goes back to getting Clip to Buddy Media when I started Silverback. Some people will have the option to move on and get a new gig. Be okay with the pivot. So when that door closes, build your own house. You don't have to play in that sandbox. Who says you have to stay in that sandbox, play in that sandbox, interact with those people, be around that industry? Change industries. Don't just change jobs. Learn about something else. Learn while you're at the job that you hate right now, that you know that door is going to close eventually, and reinvent yourself somewhere else. I'm not a finance guy. I just spent 3.5 years as chief revenue officer at a fintech in New York City. My skill set, what I brought to the table, was so unique and so different than anything all of my finance-backed colleagues had seen before. I was a unicorn. I was able to do incredible things for that fintech because when one door closes, I decided to go build a house or leave the neighborhood completely. Number 47, you're going to screw up. Own it, address it, fix it, and move on. Obsessing over it doesn't help anybody. And it probably hurts you the most if you obsess over it. Screw up, observe, fix, move on. Number 48. In the chaos of disaster, there is always a gift. My father was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and I wanted to raise money for him. So I decided to run the New York City Marathon. However, the year that I chose to run the New York City Marathon, it was canceled because of Hurricane Sandy. The next day, I decided to run the marathon anyway. I did it at a local high school and throughout my town. My father, who was in a wheelchair at the time, was able to be there. That marathon was later covered in Sports Illustrated, and I crossed the finish line with my father there and some people cheering, and it was one of the most beautiful moments of my entire life. And I thought it was a big disaster because Sandy hit and the marathon was canceled. But because I chose to do it on my own, I shared with my father a tremendously magical moment. Because no matter what the disaster, there's always a gift. That's a real one. Number 49. Your job is to help others. Full stop. I don't care if you're 16. I don't care if you're 60. Your job as a human being is to help others. I believe that's why when I do these types of things, I am in the flow state. Why time collapses, why when I'm on stage keynoting an event, it flows through me. If I do a TV segment, I don't remember. I kind of black out. And I think it's because I'm put on this earth to help others. I also think that we all are. I think we all have something to offer each other. And I think it's your responsibility to help those around you, even the ones that annoy you. Probably more so the ones that annoy you. 50. Drum roll, please. When I first started working, it was 1997. I went straight into grad school at NYU, but I had internships and I was commuting into the city, and I was commuting with my dad. And it was cool. My brother was there. We were all working in Midtown, and my dad would smoke his pipe outside and say, fellas, I'm going to buy you a shoe shine. Desi men would come hang out. We'd get our shoes shined. My dad would smoke his pipe. We'd say hi, and then we'd all go our separate ways. But when we were commuting in, there was a gentleman, a conductor on Metro North, was commuting in from Golden's Bridge, because we were all living in Mayapack at the time, into the city. And he had a habit that when we would pull into Grand Central, he would say the same thing. And man, did I love it. And this is number 50. Have a great day. Make it a great day for somebody else. And man, those words stuck with me so much that with my daughters, when I say goodbye to them, drop them off at school. I just did it with my 14-year-old Olivia. Dropped her off at school 2 hours ago. And I said, have a great day. And her response was, make it a great day for somebody else. And that's a nice little tradition that I have with my daughters. And it's all because that kind gentleman on Metro North in the late 90s and early 2000s would say, have a great day and make it a great day for somebody else. All right, that's 50. But I've got a bonus for you. 51. Why not? We're here, right? 2015, February of 2015, my father was in hospice care because he was dying from Lou Gehrig's disease. Wow, 10 years ago feels like it's 2 seconds ago. And one day I was leaving for the evening. We were all by his side. Nurse was there. He was in a hospital bed in his bedroom. And I was about to leave. He said, Chris. I turned around and he said, keep up the good work. Kind of said, okay, Dad. Seemed like it was out of nowhere. I went home, came back the next day, spent the day with him. I don't know whether it was the next day or maybe the day after that he passed away. Damn it. And I realized those were my father's last words to me. And I really latched onto that because that is who my father was for me. My cheerleader, my mentor, my confidant, right? Just one of those dudes, just the best. And for his last words to be keep up the good work, that's become a bit of a mantra for me. And it's now a mantra for you. I want you to keep up the good work because you're doing great. You're out here learning on YouTube of all places. I hope my silly list of 50, now 51 things helps you, motivates you, and inspires you to create phenomenal things. I'd love to hear about the phenomenal things that you're creating, and I'd love to meet you and hear from you. Drop a comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know your list. What did I miss? I appreciate all of you, and keep up the good work, gang.